ia ko tā anō kia mea atuai. Ia te whenua tānu. Ia tō te matapuo. Mea ia mātau ki te ao nei. I o te ia o hareia. Ko murua ke ia mātai. O mātai i oa. Me mātai huki ia mātai. Mātai we i o ahia. Ka hore huki mātai kia kauo. Kia whakawai. E rangi, whakaura ia mātai. Ia te kino mea. No ho nā ia hoki te o ano. Me te manatapu. Me ko te tai ea. Ke tonu atu. Mene. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko rātau rā tērā te mate kia rātau. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono ko tātou mātonu anō tēnei tātou te kānohi ora kia tātou mātou kuau. Kai te mihi atu tēnā rā tātou e tātou mā. Tēnā rā tātou ngā mihi ake atu, ngā mihi o te wā. Ngā mihi nunui a te 2020 mārima. Kai te mihi atu tēnā rā tātou. Kahuri. Kia ora. Yes, glad to be back in this new year, 2025. We got an awesome lineup for you today, and a whole new look about things as we look at continuing with our mandating in this year, and as we look at also the continuation of us looking at settlements, and it looks like we're coming to that point where conclusion of settlement, at least our first two settlements, should be pretty well in the pipeline and very, very close. So just wanting to mention that just at the outset, e tatauma, as we come into take kōrero te wā. Take kōrero te wā is just those significant matters, those significant issues for us in Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu iwi that at the moment have some sort of resonance or not. Sometimes matters are not too agreeable with us and sort of they really go against the grain, especially where I want to focus a lot on the law and order of our people, which has gone out the window, really, amongst some of the tribes of the country, especially junior tribes. Junior tribes are very, very, they've gone off the rails more so over recent years, and we're pretty worried, we're pretty concerned about that. So some of the kōrero is going to be centred around that, some of the corruption going on in there. He nui te harara, he nui te harara o te teina I roto I tēnei o te oko ngani. Tēnei o te wāhi, kei roto nei e whaka pina tiana te hapu iwi, e whaka tena tuana I te hapu iwi kia tu kaha, kia tu tangata, me te pina hoki ngā huatanga katoa o te hapu iwi. Okay, and so that's what we're here for. To build our hapu iwi, and we can't do that unless a lot of this corrupt and skullduggery way of doing things is eradicated from our space. This is why you get us sometimes we're even very angry, overwhelmed in fact with anger sometimes because of the level of corruption in the space. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. in TakeTupuna, our first for 2025. And this year, we're only going to be coming on monthly, once a month. Sometimes I shall have our governess, our queen, with me, and sometimes not, perhaps, I'm not too sure, and maybe others with me as well, to discuss certain matters. You know, we've always got TakeTupuna, so we decided to use this space and time for the discussion of matters that are really significant to us. Like, for instance, we've already started on the first matter, and that is settlements, where we're coming close to settlement now. We're looking to settle in Wairarapa and Hidetaunga Wairua, and we're going to conclude that. That's in the pipeline. Kahungunu don't know that yet, but we have been discussing that directly with the Crown, and we have let them know that we've finally decided that we would look at settlement and look to conclude it. Because we've had enough of this mess about. We've had enough of this mess around. We've had enough of their corruption, the Crown's corruption. These other tribes, these junior tribes, we've had enough of their corruption. And what we're hoping is that along the way, we can correct their way of seeing things and their way of doing things. Like, for instance, the Crown still hasn't produced any evidence that kahungunu rangitania hapu iwi, or even in fact that kahungunu is a hapu. Okay, there's no evidence of that. No evidence, and the Crown hasn't produced any. So it's highly likely that it's not very lawful either for either of those groups to even be LNG, just like the Ngāpuhi in the north. Koreka, koreka, ka horekau e tatauma. No evidence whatsoever to back their claim of supremacy in their lands up in the north, and yet they have no evidence to being a hapu iwi. They still claim to be the largest hapu iwi in the country, and that's not true either, because they're, as I've just said, they're not a hapu iwi. And also, in fact, e tatauma ngā puhi are actually an uri, whānau uri. And those are the facts, and the Crown still can't even produce the evidence that ngā puhi is a hapu iwi. The Crown still can't even back their claims and back their words that ngā puhi are the rightful LNG in the north. This is not true. This is not true. And those of us amongst the seniors are really getting sick and tired of this sort of thing. The Crown pandering to the juniors because they managed to get their way with the juniors in 1840 when it came to getting access to lands and stuff like that. And that's the only reason they're LNGs. If that's the only reason, well, can they stop these falsified claims in the motu that they're hapu iwi and they have right to have claim right over the top of the rest of us, because they don't. The Crown needs to be corrected on that as well, because as we, the focus that we want us to have from today is that the total fault of this whole trouble, this whole chaotic situation, is the Crown, or what we call the Crown / Crown quote unquote. Okay, so we mean the Crown of Westminster and / Crown quote unquote, the Crown entity that was put in place to do all the dirty work for the Crown in Westminster in the country from 1840 after the fraudulence went down. And in fact, in September of 1840 is when all of that started, and when this particular Crown entity came in, Crown money, quote unquote. Kaitai, so you've all got the idea there. You all know what we're going to be using this space and time, just a couple of hours, where we would would get to e tatauma, share with you the significance of take of the time. That's, in a nutshell, exactly what we're doing here. So there we have settlements. We also have the oral submissions of the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill. The oral submissions. We've got quite a lot to say about the oral submissions. We absolutely loved all of those oral submissions that opposed the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill, but we couldn't believe how suckered in the people that supported the bill, and how because Seymour Act and constituency, they're just taking them for a ride. I mean, all of those different issues we need to talk about today that come out of that. I mean, they claim that we get special rights. Where are they? We haven't had any. Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu iwi has had no special rights whatsoever, because we weren't promised special rights through Te Tiriti. We were promised protections of our pre-existing rights, and our culture and heritage, and even our way of governance was promised protections. But we never ever got that. So guess who got the special rights? Pākehā got it. Okay? So these people are getting carried away with the words of Seymour. Aroha mai. Carried away with the rhetoric in the words of Seymour and Act and constituency, the racial overtones of that rhetoric, the denials of wanting to change the wording in Te Tiriti, yet it's being done all the time. And the simple fact, e tatauma, that the original intentions of Te Tiriti from 1840 were absolutely scrubbed by the Crown. This is part of the fraudulent manner in which the Crown ripped us all off. And I'm not talking about Pākehā in that sense. I'm talking about all of the Hapu iwi, all seven. The Moai, the Te Awa, the Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu iwi, which is us. Well, Te Awa is us as well. Te Awa Hapu iwi. And Māmoe, Hapu iwi whānau uri. Moriori Hapu iwi, they're the fifth line of the motu where Te Tini o Toi comes from, and so where Awa, the next line of Hapu iwi, comes from, and then from them through Awaroa comes Te Atiawa Nui no Rungaterangi. Now the big rip-off went down. Most of these people that supported the bill so far have supported the bill so far. We've been laughing at them. You know, they're hilarious. They're hilarious because they don't even consider the fact that Te Tiriti was a fraud, because they don't know. There's so much that they don't know. There's so much that Seymour doesn't know. There's so much that ACT doesn't know. There's so much that the constituency doesn't know. But the racial way in which they discuss some of these matters, they're actually making all these matters up. We've had no special rights. There have been no special rights whatsoever. And the problem isn't the principles. The principles of Te Tiriti we put there. They were put in place because people could not interpret Te Tiriti. Now, tribes like ours, Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu iwi, we don't need the principles. And actually, we would actually, if there were a vote to be passed or a referendum, we would vote to get rid of the principles because we don't need them. However, there are people in the motu that do need them, okay, because they can't, they're a great guide for them. They can't interpret some of the clauses in Te Tiriti. As much as people want to say it's very easy to understand Te Tiriti, te mea, the simple fact of the matter is, most of our people in the country do not speak te reo of te awa, te reo of Moai, and te reo of Tahumakakanuimatua, which is the reo Hapu iwi that te tiriti was written in. The same with He Whakaputanga. He Whakaputanga 1835 was written in the same reo. Now, let's make no bones about that and not expect everyone in the country to understand clearly what the tiriti says. But one thing we do not like is the way that shrewdly Seymour Act and constituency actually via this bill do change clauses in te tiriti. They do. They changed the tino rangatiratanga clause. Everyone's made that clear. Everyone's made that clear. When you've got 1, 2 or 3 people making that clear, just about everyone has though. But when you've got 1, 2 or 3, you'll hit it. You'll hit it. You can't say, oh no, we don't, our bill does not change te tiriti at all. You can't say that. As soon as 3 people say that you do, you're goners. Seymour's just, well, you know, a part of our kōrero today, we're going to mention just briefly the Minister of Māori Affairs. Now, he's almost looking from today as bad as the Seymour. Now, so we're going to have a little chat about him, and we'd like to see him out of there, out of Māori Affairs. We'd like to see Seymour out of Parliament. And some of the other kōrero that gets brought up in there by the supporters of the bill are some of those mentions of a democracy. I've yet to see it. I've been brought up in te tiri o te moana, Aotearoa, te tiri o te moana, Hawaii ki tau, all my life. And I haven't seen a democracy yet. I haven't seen a democracy yet. I've seen a system by where Pākehā and the Crown always get what they want, and we have to fight over the scraps that are left. That's all I've seen. That's all I've seen. Okay? So where's the democracy? Show me the democracy. Okay? And I'll show you that I'm blind. And I doubt that I'm blind. Because even if I was blind, I got pretty good hearing. Okay? I got pretty good hearing, so I could tell if you were a democracy or not. And this country is not a democracy. It dreams of being one. It's an attempt at being one. And it's got an authoritarian dictatorship sitting at the top of it. How can it be a democracy? How do you form a democracy out of an authoritarian dictatorship? Who is the problem in this country? The problem in this country is the Crown / Crown. So let's get to the point. Let's get to the point. When are we getting rid of this mob? When are we getting rid of them? Because it's time they were out of here as well. Just like the Minister of Māori Affairs. Time they were out of here. Okay? I reiterate that all those issues are made up. When we put through our submission, we didn't elect to kōrero for this matter, for this bill. We didn't elect to join the oral submission, so you won't see us in the next 6 months. Oh, I don't know. We might change our mind because we're that appalled with all of the submissions that do support the bill. Crazy, the supporters of the bill, especially the Hobson's pledge. I laughed. I cracked up. I thought, what dreamers? What dreamers? These people don't even know what's in te tiriti, what happened with te tiriti, how we got ripped off, how sovereignty got plastered all over the world via the Queen, and it wasn't even true, how the fraudulence went down and how they utilised our reo and some original intentions to get our tupuna to sign. That's all they did. Luckily, none of the seniorship signed. Okay, none of us signed. So there you have it, folks. there you have it. Some smart moves by our tupuna. Because it was something that we needed to have some signatures in there, perhaps was always part of the plan. And for the seniors to pull out was always part of the plan. Why? Because everything was too good to be true. And you and I know, you and I who are business people, we know when something is too good to be true, then it's not true. Okay? So you pull out. You pull out of that deal. Now, that's business acumen for you. Our tupuna were very smart business people, very smart trades, you know, across the world were numerous, and we had a great economy. Everything was working. It was just perhaps a bit slower and of a lot less capacity and technological than what could be boasted of Great Britain or any other more developed countries of that time. Okay, so e tatauma, they're big take as well for us at the moment. Um, yeah, we've had no special rights. Pākehā and the Crown have been offered special rights here, equal rights here since 1790 in this country that we know is recorded, where our tūpuna offered them through the establishment of ko huiarau, te wakaminenga o te rūnanga ko huiarau. They were offered a 50-50 power base within that parliament. That was the first parliament of the country, and a very, very successful one too. More than a democracy. And that owes to, that's a part of why it was so successful right throughout the world. Right throughout the world. It's funny how we sort of are finding it real easy to bypass the special significance of ko huiarau in the country over that time and just naturally take on the Westminster system, which was forced upon us from 1854 racially to begin with. It's funny how most of our people today, they would actually find great excuse to say, oh, ko huiarau is not worth following and Westminster is. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. The Westminster system of the country has never helped our indigenous, our Māori. Okay, it's never done. It's done paltry for us. I mean, even New Zealand First and their paltry little ways of helping Māori of the country, indigenous of the country, I swear, is a good indication of what that looks like. Us scrapping over the crumbs. To save scrapping, just go under New Zealand First and you're always going to get what you want, some scraps. Okay? Look, e tatauma, these sorts of issues are big time issues and big kōrero and real significant right throughout the country, not just amongst us, not just amongst the 315 plus thousand of Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu iwi in the country. Okay, those that we're just starting to bring under the Crown mandating system just now. Okay, I think we're almost up to 160,000 now. And we're still doing really, really well. We're still mostly working in the WesternAukatiTai, the TeTaiHauauruAukatiTai. So that's where we're working hard with our mandating at the moment. Okay, but 160,000, that's not too bad. We're not doing too bad. We've slowed up a bit, but and there's lots of other work to do, but at the moment, but definitely still rolling along with that. That's another part of our take o te wā, because that's our main job at the moment. We're focused on that. We especially want to get that ready because we're going to be looking at settlements right across the country. Okay, we're starting with our first term. We're close to concluding those two. We've also got our eyes on the north. So just a bit of a warning there for Ngāpuhi who think that corruptly working with a corrupt regime of the Crown / Crown, quote unquote, is a way forward for them. That doesn't look too trustworthy, Ngāpuhi. And you're not a hapu iwi, so you could never be the largest hapu iwi in the country. At the moment, that's looking like us. Okay? And we've got proof of that. You haven't got an uretārewa connected to your kahakanui. I mean, every tribe has a kahakanui. Even uri whānau uri have a kahakanui. You know what that is? That's a birth line. A birth line of your tribe. When your tribe has a birth line, it has that birth line because it has an ariki line. See? And the ariki and the queen that marries with him draws a strong line of descent, which people start to commit to. That's where you get your uri whānau uri. We're not all hapu, as some people have sort of, and so that's one of the take as well. How do we tell which is uri, which is hapu, and which is hapu iwi whānau uri, and which is the actual hapu iwi, or the state or the nation that we're talking about? Okay, that's another part of our kōrero today. And we need to have a good look at things like that, and especially as we're focused real hard on that at the moment. Within that part of our kōrero, I'll talk about our vision statement, and also our vision statement and our mission statement for 2025 to 2028, and just talk around that to help you to understand. But every tribe has a kahakanui, or birth line, that starts with your ariki, one ariki. Uri whānau uri are called uri whānau uri only because they have a ariki, they have a queen, but they don't have uretārewa. Now, uretārewa is very, very important to connect to the kahakanui and to basically be the main consistency of the kahakanui, not just the ariki and his queen. Okay? For hapu, you must have kiatoru rā, te ariki, mōuko tamaroa, all firstborns, sons, mōuko tamaroa, all firstborn sons, and all ariki in a row. So that's, for instance, we mean 3 in a row. For instance, that would be in a line, and the only way you can get 3 in a row in a line is for one to be a grandfather, one to be a father, and one to be the son. That is your new iwi line. That is a hapu iwi line. Okay, why? Because each line has a kahakanui with that paramountcy, but the third one, see, because you have the tri-paramountcy or the dynasty, which completes the uretārewa of a hapu. Okay, so we're going to talk a wee bit around things like that so that people understand a bit more about what that is. Because there are too many junior tribes in the country that continue to claim falsely, because the Crown states that they are the LNG, that they are, and they don't even know what an iwi is, the Crown. And they say that they're an iwi, and we, very smart, intelligent people like us, Tahumakakanuimatua hapu iwi, we go to the Crown and we say, eta, kai whea tō te whai a kiko a kōtou, whakātuhia mai, and we say to them, show us your evidence, o te mea nei, o te hapu, o tūhoe, pēnā ia tūhoe ma, kai whera. I wherauti te ure tārewa I atu hoi. You know, and they can't show us. You know why? Because there isn't any. You know why? Because tūhoe is actually only uri whānau uri. See, they have a ariki, they have a queen, and they have a kahakanui in tūhoe, but they do not have ure tārewa, which would make you a hapu. Now, to make you a iwi, firstly, this is the first part of becoming an iwi. You get to 5 of those dynasties, and so, in other words, 5 most directly descended hapu that have joined together and made descendants through 5 different uretareba or dynasty paramountcies. You have basically a hapu iwi, but that's hapu iwi whānau uri. Hapu iwi whānau uri. From there up to the 7th is hapu iwi whānau uri. Okay, and I think the best example of that in the country is Mamwe. Mamwe, who also have descents of iwi, of hapu iwi. They have their own descents of hapu iwi, who are the Tahumakakanuimatua hapu iwi and the Kahu hapu iwi. Okay, why? Because they have 5 or they have 7 ure tārewa. Okay, let's not forget their wives. All 3 have wives that are queens. Te mea, te mea, te mea. Okay, and then from those kahakanui comes, you know, through that 3rd one, and his kahakanui is the new hapu iwi. Such was Tahumakakanuimatua, who was the son of Tutura, who was the son of Tutura te Matua. Okay, there's ours. There's ours. That's where we come from. That's our first one. And we have 12. So how could we not be an iwi? How could we not be a hapu iwi? How could we not be a hapu? How could a crown process and regime and establishment that is not really an establishment, but a made-up one, an imagined one, that has no mana in the country, but that fraudulated its way into existence in our country to look like they run the country. And they got a cheek to dictate all of that running all over the top of everybody. They got a cheek. So as I've said in my last call, that was just before Christmas there in 2024, I said some of us have already gone direct to deal direct with King Charles on these matters, on these sorts of matters. Because the crown, / crown, quote unquote, does not belong here anymore. We just want the crown. We just want to deal with the crown in Westminster with King Charles. I think for us, for Tahumakakanuimatua hapu iwi, we're going to take it international court, United Nations, te mea, te mea, te mea. And we're going to get everything that is rightfully ours granted to us before we deal with King Charles. And then he's got he can't avoid us. He can't he can't argue with us. He can't even discuss it with us. He has to comply. Okay, I think that's what we've got on the table. I need to at some point, hopefully, I'll get to bring in our lawyer. We'll have a bit of a chat, and we'll film that, and you'll get to hear from her side of the story, what we're planning to do for Tahumakakanuimatua hapu iwi in that respect, because it's absolutely corrupt, the system that we're working in. Why? Because of the crown and the way it works. They basically force you under a junior tribe that is lacking in status, not even a hapu iwi, and that has no mana in your space. You know, Who does that? Who does that? Who does that? Dreamers like this. Dreamers like the Crown, quote unquote. They do that. And even more dreamy are those junior tribes that chase them up and live the corrupt dream. The imagined, the pōhewahi o te mea. E whai atu ana e rātai. Pōhewahi. Pōhewahi a kene. And it's, mate, we're laughing all day at all this sort of crap, all this sort of garbage going on. But it starts with the Crown. Ridiculous having these junior tribes, going into that regime, going into that process and just taking it for granted. And actually, like kupapa, turning their backs on their tuakana, turning their backs on them. And we know all of this through experience because we've been coming through the process for years now. And we're well onto it. We're well ahead of the game. And in fact, the juniors that we've been up against in the process, we've trounced them in the process. The process hasn't changed though, but we just wanted to see what they'll do. And actually they've stayed the same. And we're not happy with that. We're not happy with that. But that doesn't mean we're not going to settle. See, because we're a lot smarter than that. I mean, we've been looking at settlements ever since the beginning. The first offer of settlement for us was in 2014. And don't say anything at Tatauma, but we refused it then, and we refused it in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2021, 2023, and in 2024. But we've re-looked at everything since then. And we're now going to start to look at settlement and concluding it. Why? Because we're not going to bother arguing with this corrupt system. We're just going to make sure the world knows, make sure the country knows, make sure our people know, and make sure that the people we're dealing with knows that. So that when we enter into this deal, the more corrupt it gets, the more they're going to have a battle on their hands. And I want them to understand what that means. I want them to understand what that means. And we've got a lot of allies right throughout Pacifica. And also within the country. Tonga, Samoa. The Mayans. And these people are all going to be jumping up and down in the years to come. If these people, these other tribes, don't start to come to the ball game and make the Crown come to the ball game as well. Well, before they get kicked out of here. Because I assure you, the Crown's out of here. Okay? Now, if that doesn't happen before they're out of here, we can relax, because you know what that means? As soon as the Crown's out of here, these junior groups are going to have no option but to go under. That's customary. And that's where they should have operated from right through. They shouldn't have put us through all this garbage. These are some more of the take o te wā. E tatama. Just like Ngā Puhi, who are among the most junior of the North. They are not as much as the Crown wants us to believe. Where's all those Pākehā supporters of the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill? Where's all those Pākehā supporters? Because these are the issues they should be bringing up. This is the reality of what we are going through. See, where's the special rights? Where's the equal rights for us? We've been fighting for equal rights since 1840 in this country, our own country. And we haven't got there. Why? Because the Crown ripped us off. The Crown ripped us off. And they continued to enforce this falsified interpretation of the original intentions of Te Tiriti into the country right from 1840, just to make sure e tātou mā, through their political strategy, through their racial parliament, te mea. that we could not reverse the situation for ourselves, and we couldn't. It was too late by the time our people realised what had happened. Cunning buggers, eh? Reo rori ke, a te karauna nei. And that's another reason we're getting rid of them, and that's another reason that I say we're not living in a democracy at Tatauma. This never has been, and in fact, everything that we had before Te Tiriti was far more successful in this country. Ko Huiaro was far more successful than any. I just about put Ko Huiaro way above any of the governments of the modern day. Okay, but not many of our Pākehā friends that support the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill, they don't know anything about that. See, this is the problem. A lot of the kōrero that we have is a part of a lot of that kōrero that's been brushed under the carpet for years. In fact, for 186 years almost. Okay, e tatama? Mean kaupapa. Mean kaupapa. These are the kaupapa o te wā. And we've got the Māori Affairs Minister thrown in there for good measure, because we're going to hopefully be able to kick his ass out of there too. We need to kick his ass out of there. He's too much of a kupapa, and he needs to take a hike. Okay? Now, I'm the main spokesman at the moment for Moai Hapu, Te Awa Hapu, Te Awa Hapu Iwi, Moai Hapu Iwi, and Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu Iwi at the moment. Now, that includes Mā Moai Hapu Iwi. Now, that would, e tatou mā, bring us to about 450,000 plus people in the nation. Okay, you add that to our submission against the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and you've got added to the 300,000 plus that opposed the bill as well. All of our people opposed the bill. So that gives us about 70% of the indigenous of this country, including tangata tiriti, opposed that principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill so far. Okay? And, you know, we've still got a lot of oral submissions left now. I'm not hoping to change, you know, things. By the way, I'm just mentioning a lot of the home truths, a lot of the facts that people aren't aware of. We're doing that a lot. In fact, we're doing that a lot with a lot of our professionals we get to discuss with whatever we're discussing at any certain time. We try to help them to understand that a lot of what they're getting told is hogwash. A lot of what they keep getting told is hogwash. This is the true story. Okay? And that's why groups like us exist. You know, it's a bit of a hard case in Waitarapa Tauranga because we've got the mob always grizzling. Now, the mob's always grizzling, and they're always trying to get us to, oh, can we go mob? I go, no, we can't go mob. We can't look at the mob for any reason at all. You know why? And they go, why? I say, because it's done right across this whole region. It's Tahumakakanuimatua. That would mean the supporting of. If you're into gangs, we're not even into gangs. All right? But if you're into gangs, well, yeah, the supporting gang of Tahumakakanuimatua would make it blacks here. And that's what it is. We got no worries. We sort of keep our distance from the blacks as well, because we're not even gang. We're not even looking to operate with the gangs anymore. Okay, we tried that and it failed. Okay, and so yeah, real grizzle gutsers, the mob, and they've been doing that for the last, I think, since 2022, 23. Sorry, 2002, 2003. Yeah, real grizzle gutsers. They've been grizzle gutsers right through, and yeah, I said to them, well, if you don't like it, ship out. That's the best advice I have for them. And they said, well, isn't one of your tribes connected with Rarotonga? I said, yes, that's Waitaha Rangi. But they were overlaid by Tahumakakanuimatua. You know what that means? What does that mean? They said, I said, that was led by us. Tamatea Riki Nui was Tahumakakanuimatua. Now, he's the man that brought Takitimu Waka here. As much as he was from Rarotonga Paparoa, that tribe, basically over 5 generations, became Tahumakakanuimatua. Even though it's got a kahakanui or a birth line of Rarotonga Paparoa. Okay? Do you understand tikanga like that? If you understand tikanga like that, then you understand no Tahumakakanuimatua ke tēnā hapu. And it's a hapu. First stage, waitaha rangi. And that's where the kahungunu come out of. Okay? Most senior line in that hapu, ureta rewa hapu, whānau uri, is te uri a te hau mearoa. The line of my mother. See? I said, and I've kept saying to the mob, that does not make it mob here. Okay, understand that. Though no one's going to hassle you if if you like the mob connection, fine with us. But that don't make it mob here. Right through Wairarapatārarua and right through Hiretaunga Wairua, it is Tahumakakanuimatua. And so those are the first 2 settlements we're looking at concluding in these very early times of 2025. Awesome, mate. Awesome. That's a good thing. That's a good thing to see things like that settle through. So okay, we've decided to take it into the engine room there and continue this debate with these juniors who think that they've got the goods and what it takes, but just because they know tūhoe is hopeless. Kore take a tūhoe. Uri whānau uri. Don't forget to mention that. Tūhoe he uri whānau uri. It means they've still got some growing to do. And they have. Tamariki noi ho te āhua kia tūhoe. That's all I've got to say about that. And these people think just because they know of tūhoe, just because they know of their karakia, that's the be-all and end-all. Oh, that's not true. Tūhoe are dreaming here. In fact, so many people want rid of tūhoe, it's not funny. And when you're in that position, you're not looking too good. Especially in most cases when you've got tohunga pō leading you. See, and that's not good. Even in some cases where you're forcing other hapu iwi, and yet you're uri whānau uri, hapu iwi, you're forcing them to go under your laws. What disgusting disrespect, smacking of disrespect, trampling all over hapu iwi right across the country just because of the karakia. What dreamers? You can't do things like that. By law, you cannot do things like that. They're asking for a good kick in the ass, and I think they're very close to getting that. Okay, and I can't wait. I can't wait. In fact, I'm going to join in and kick their ass too. Okay? And those are some of the significant matters here. And we've got a little mention here of treaty talks. Treaty talks. Cut out the rhetoric. Cut out the rhetoric and treaty talks. There's no truth in a Māori people discovering te tiri o te moana o te aroa Hawaii ki tau. Kai te he tēnā kōrero. Tell treaty talks to button up if they can't bring us out the truth and the facts. All these dreamers under the crown, these junior tribes that think they've got it going on just because the crown backs them, they just suck it in. So suck it in, just like the Pākehā people supporting the treaty principles bill. They're all sucked in. They're sucked into Seymour's rhetoric. Yeah, and he may very well be vote hunting, but I don't think he's going to get too many. I don't think he'll get too many. Yeah, I don't think he'll get too many votes. But there's a lot of people getting stirred up. Pākehā people mostly, wanting equal rights. Talking about Indigenous, Māori, and our Hapu iwi having special rights. Where? I want to see that, because I want to be part of it if that's the case, because I've never had that in this country. Okay? We've never had special rights. Pākehā have. Pākehā have. They've had everything go their way. Everything in Parliament, everything in the law, everything in health, everything in education's all gone Pākehā way. Look at the facts, man. They're all just allowing themselves to get sucked into the rhetoric of Seymour acting constituency and their racial ideas. They have racial ideas, and you can tell that by some of the issues I've raised about te tiriti and about the Crown and how they operated te tiriti over the last 186 years, and why most of the hapu iwi of the country want rid of the Crown. We know there are some tribes that want to stick with the Westminster system. That's fine. But most of us, I would say, will be going back to kohuiara. And why not? Because via that system, we will not only get everything that we should rightfully have, but under that system, Pākehā will get everything that they should rightfully have, and also every other people in the country will get everything that they should rightfully have. Because it is multi-dimensional. And this is the thing. This is the thing about the governance ways of our tupuna, of our ancestors of old. We were multi-dimensional, yeah. The facets were multi, everything was multi. And the Crown couldn't stand that sort of way of doing things. They hated that. In fact, the Crown was so monocultural, so monolingual, so interested more so in themselves and being the superior race amongst us that this sort of thing was not the go to them. At least that's what we thought. Anyway, that's what we were made to think anyway, where every time they were offered equal rights in the country, they refused that. Why? Because they wanted 100%. We got to 1835 at the time of He Whakaputanga, 1835. Hello. They started looking like, Kats pai nui ho ki a rātau. Te rima te kau pai hēneti, ki te rima te kau pai hēneti. Rima te kau pai hēneti, tō tērā taha, tō tērā, he rima te kau pai hēneti. All of a sudden it was starting to look like that. So we get to te tiriti, and they bring us the deal, and all of a sudden it looks like that. Not only that, we get the whole world promised us. Now, I don't blame for all this, all these seniors, absolute businessmen, eh? Absolute businessmen. Just like today, our seniorships are not done We're business people too, but we're just not into this corrupt business. You understand, juniors? Stand down. Stand aside, juniors. We're going to have to correct this situation. We're going to have to correct this process and this regime of the Crown. Whichever way we take it, we're going to have to correct it, because there's no way any of our senior hapu iwi in the country are going under any of these juniors. And changing our customary law and order in terms of doing that tuturu. We don't mind settling, we don't mind going under in that respect, but we're going to be protesting right through. If it takes forever, we'll protest forever. We're going to haka, song and dance and do whatever it takes to make sure that these juniors back it up. They're going to have to back it up. And they're going to have to listen, because as juniorities, I wouldn't be surprised if one day they just curl over and die. Because to trample your seniorities that much, it's just beyond, it's beyond understanding. It's beyond, there's no other greater corruption in our customary establishment and the perpetual foundations that it brings with it. There's nothing more corrupt that could ever happen. You're stuffed as juniors, as far as we're concerned. And we know that that will be the end of this game that you're playing and using the Crown in which to do that. Okay? But that's where we're taking our settlements anyway. We're starting to settle. We're starting to look at ensuring that we settle. We're concerned for the well-being of everyone, not just ourselves. But these juniors, they really need to think hard about what it is they're really doing. If they think they're going to get control of all of the taonga tuku iho that we have, think again. Think twice about that. Think twice about that. If they think they can absolutely take us over, think again. Think twice about that. We don't mind settling. We don't mind settling under the requirements. But to enforce that over us, you got a hell of a fight on your hands. You got a hell of a fight on your hands. And if you want to take this fight forever, we're willing to go there. In fact, we hope you get there in 5 minutes. So it's not going to worry us. Okay? Okay? Now, if that's what it takes to get justice in this country, and if it takes to kick the Crown out of this country for us to get that, then let's do it. Let's do it. Okay? We got no worries with that. We got no worries with that. Now, at the end of the day, Tahumakakanuimatua is my baby. Okay? The hapu iwi is my baby. I've led this hapu iwi for the last 26 years, you might as well say. And I want to keep leading this hapu iwi. No matter what requirements you've got laid down in the settlement, no matter what it takes, you're going to be fighting me to try and get it. Okay? And I'll take you on. You got your karakia of tūhoe, and you challenged me to a duel over this hapu iwi. I'll take you on. How about that? How about that? I don't give a stuff. I'll take you on, because I'll tell you why, because I'll win. That's why. Your karakia ain't gonna scare me. Tūhoe ain't gonna scare me. Tūhoe uri, whānau uri, are never gonna scare me. Not only are they teina, but they are uri whānau uri. So none of their karakia workings is going to dominate me at all. And it never does. It never does. It just causes us a lot of trouble. And quite frankly, we're sick and tired of it. But we knew we were going to come to a point where we were going to end up settling. And we were always going to get to that point. But that point hasn't been the right time for us. But we feel that now it is. Now is the right time. And so we're moving into settlements, and so that's settlements out of the way. E tatauma, we really need to, a lot of these people supporting the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Bill, dreamers, really, dreamers. If you've got some facts to share with us as to why, that would be really good. If you've got some sources with a lot of this special rights and some evidence of some hapu iwi that have had special rights, I'd be really interested in that, because we've seen none. Okay? And a democracy in this country, I'm telling you, just like I said in my last kōrero last year, just before Christmas, e tatauma, a democracy does not exist in this country. You're dreaming if you think it's a democracy here. We're headed by an authoritarian dictatorship. Where's the democratic? There's nothing democratic in that. We're all forced under their rule. That's not democratic. We're all forced to toe the line if we're weak. And Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu iwi isn't weak. Thank the Lord for that. We keep arguing and fighting, and they don't know the Crown, but most of the time I'd love to have been able to punch their head in so far. But, that wouldn't have done us much good. We would just all got into trouble and we would have had no settlement. So, but they're wasting their time, these Crown boys. They think they can dictate to us exactly how it is. No, we'll tell you, Crown people, how it is. We'll tell you. We're the bosses. We're the authorities over hapu iwi in this country. We know what that is, especially at the senior level, which is where I speak from, which is why I'm usually the spokesman of all the seniorities today. Okay, all 450,000 of us. So start to get things right here. If you're Crown / Crown, quote unquote, in this country. Start to get things right here and start to make sure that you toe the line. We don't have to toe the line on nothing. Your process and the way you enforce your made-up laws mean nothing without you abiding by customary law and order, which has an international law and New Zealand common law basis as well, that you, Mr. Crown / Crown, quote unquote, need to learn a bit more about, and a bit more respect for who you're dealing with, because you don't own this country and you don't own us, and you can't force us to do anything for you because you got in by fraud. Okay? And you're about to get out of here. Okay? So after all the settlements are done, pack your bags. Pack your bags. Because you're out of here. Okay? Now, what that means, I'll just talk a little bit more on that. What that means is that most of the hapu iwi I know are going to end up going under kōhuiarai, and that's really awesome. And I know that Tahumakakanuimatua hapu iwi has already been chosen by the top to run kōhuiarai once we're ready to do that. Now, I'm really looking forward to that. So most hapu iwi will come under us. Now, we will still run things under Te Tiriti, but everyone, this is, I've said it once before, front foot politics at its best. Front foot politics at its best, where everyone gets what they rightfully should have. Okay, we've got to discuss these things through the parliamentary processes of kōhuiarai, but we're always with an even split. See? We've always got an even split. So some things might take a little longer to discuss, and that's the only thing I found tough about Tutura ways of finding consensus are really, really difficult in terms that take kōrero can go on for ages and ages and ages. But, yeah, there are ways of closing it down. There are ways of rounding things up. Okay? And the first things we will probably do is ensure that the update is secure. Ensure that we have full support, that the other 50% of the parliament will be made up of governments and those people running the show, those parties running the show, a good representation of them from the Westminster system. We don't want to operate within Westminster. We're going to operate in the north, where Kohuiarai began. And all 7 hapu iwi, that's the only aukatitai in the country, that's the only region, the Northern Territories, where all 7 of the hapu iwi of the country are actually all in the same region. Okay? After that, they're spread right throughout the country. And they always have been since 1350, when TakeTupuna, Matatua, and all those waka came over with their junior tribes. Ngā toki matawhaurua, by the way, belong to Kahu. Kupe came from Kahu, of Tahumakakanuimatua of Māmoe, of Tahumakakanuimatua. There's one of our major lines in the north. Ngā Puhi is one of the junior lines out of there. Okay? Just to help you understand where we stand in the north. And we've got lots of other lines too. The Te Awa, Te Mea. Okay? Māmoe, the Māmoe line. The Moriori, our Teina. Okay? And from the Moriori, as I said earlier, came Te Tini o Toi, from whom came Awa. Ana, aia Awa, kapita tune, atu uhoe, uri, whānau uri. Okay? Yeah. And the main reason, let's go on to Hapu establishment. Let's go on to looking at the ways in which our tupuna, they relied a lot on the natural environment, the natural kawa ora of things, the natural order of things, the kawa ora. Okay? Kawa ora, Kawaora. And you got that through the environment, te pūtaiao, and you also got that I roto te wairua, he wairuatanga o roto tērā, he āhuatanga tapu kai roto. You know? So you treated them with utmost respect. And tapu can have a lot of it can lean a lot towards sanctity. I know that. Things that are set apart in terms that they are very, very special. Okay? Not necessarily holy. People say, make a mistake by saying holy. Tapu is holy. Kai te he tēnā. Tapu is not necessarily holy. You know why? No te mea a te tapu. You can take tapu into something kai te he, he harahara. He, like te kōhuru tangata, he tapu tērā. Te patsu tangata, kia mate, he tapu tērā. Me he mea kāre I roto I te wairua kāhore hoki tērā, kia mahia ki te wairua tika, ki te wairua pai, ki te wairua pono, ki tā te wairua. See? So, if you are talking tapu, you're talking a whole different scene from holiness. Holiness is purity and rightness. No, it's absolute, perfect righteousness. I roto te wairua. Tapu is not that. Tapu is not that. Okay, so be careful how we use that word. Or what tapu can mean tuakana. Okay, and that's what we mean by the tapu within the building of Hapu refers to the tuakana influence in that. Okay, tuakana play a big role in the Hapu development of uri whānau uri and the Uretārewa development of Uretārewa and the Kahakanui, the three Uretārewa, the tri-dynasties, the tri-dynasty, the trial dynasty paramountcies, and the way they establish and come together from the grandfather to the father to the son. Okay, mō ko Tamaroa, firstborn sons. Sounds very easy when you talk about it. Sounds very, very easy, but I roto te kawa ora o te mea. Ua rawake. Ua. And that's why we only have 7 hapu iwi in the country. And we always, from 1350, we always had 7. Okay? From earlier of 1350, prior to 1350, we only had 5. The 5 originals. Moai hapu iwi. Te awa hapu iwi. Tahumakakanuimatua hapu iwi. Mā moe hapu iwi whānauri. And mōriori hapu iwi. Okay? And we've got to stop this tō tātou nā akotona i wahona. E whakapono rawa ana, e whakawhirinaki ake ana i tā mea nei, Michael King. Mea na kōrero he nei, he rawa ke nei, i te mōriori. Kai te he tā Michael King. Mōriori are not tuakana in this country. Kai te he tēnā. And we know that. The whole of their establishment tells us that. We know that. We've looked into the history of Moriori very, very thoroughly, and we know that. Kai te hea tūhoe ki te ki... You know, this is typical tūhoe, eh? Typical tūhoe. You know, they get carried away in their karakia world and in their karakia way and in trying to rule over everybody else because they think they got the power over everybody. Kai te he tēnā. Kai te he tēnā. They got no power in the country tūhoe. They just don't know that. Okay? And the karakiare, iti noiho o te wāhi ki te tikanga, ki te āhuatanga, ki ngā, even I roto I tēnā o tēnā, I roto I o tēnā o te atua tuatanga. The karakia is not the be-all and end-all. So tūhoe are so sucked in. I can't stand tūhoe, really. And like many tribes, I think all of those tribes are right to say that they want rid of tūhoe in this country. Because they keep destroying everything for everyone else out of their selfish greed for power. And what makes them like that? Their stupid way of operating within the karakia. Gee, they're ridiculous the way they look at... You know, it's exactly like tohunga po, the way they look at things. Disgusting. Disgusting. And then they expect everyone else to do that within the karakia. Get off. Get off, tūhoe. Get off your high horse and enjoy your time on the ground, because that's where you need to go back to. Back to the grassroots, back to reality for tūhoe, back to uri whānau uri, and start growing up from there. Okay, so Hapu establishment has a big part in it to do with the protocols of that establishment are dependent on the tuakana, very, very much so. Okay, and the tuakana gives you the mo kotamarua, they give you the taiopuru ariki mataura, they give you the ariki, the ahupiri, the kohere, everything. They all come into play there. Koinana te tapu, te āhua te tapu e kōrero nei. People that are set apart, people that are very, very special in the whole organisation. You need those people, okay, to form your hapu. Okay, without those sorts of people, you've got no hapu, see? Because it's those sorts of people that bring you the unetārewa, ne? And although you can have a kahakanui and formulate your tribe, you form your kahakanui with your ariki and your queen, ka puta mai tō uri, your uri tribe, you have to take the next step again into the unetārewa. And I've already explained that, ne? To get a hapu. And from 1 to 5 of those, hapu iwi whānauri. So you've got the basis of an iwi right there, right up to uretārewa 7. Uretārewa hapu number 7, you've got the basis of the iwi right there, 5 to 7. Once you get 8 plus, you've got the nation and the state. That's what we call the hapu iwi. Okay? That's what we call the hapu iwi. And, yeah. Koinana. Te mā teia. That's how we say that in Tahumakakanuimatua. That's the way towards becoming a hapu iwi. For those of you trying to say that the crown gives you that, kai te he tēnā. Tā te crown, kai te he tēnā. Just because the crown demands that you are, or commands everyone else with their dictatorship that you are, and that we all have to dance and sing to their same tune, kai te he tēnā. And we won't be doing that, not for the crown. No, they won't get that from us. Okay? And so, just to, make sure that you know that the things that we are talking about here are vital to formulating customary hapu iwi. Then you need to understand that that is what it takes. There's no other way. You can't do that via crown talk, via crown demand. You can't do anything like that. Okay? Yeah, you can't do that. Okay, so these are the some of the highly integral componentries of the establishments of Hapu Iwi, or states or nations, as we know that Hapu can be translated as. But the problem with those particular, the knowledge of what a Hapu is and what an Iwi is and exactly what a nation or state is that you have to fully explain these areas of customary life. Why? Because you don't get to understand them unless you know the difference between what is uri whānauri, what is Hapu Iwi whānauri, and what is Hapu Iwi. Okay, so altogether, right through the whole of the Moteo, is about 9 different forms, see? And this is why, and this is why today people get confused, because they don't really understand. And then in today's jargon, in today's terms, they call it an iwi, which isn't true either. It's not really an iwi. We've just added iwi because iwi is a new word. The actual proper word is hapu. And what we're doing is using hapu iwi together like this in order to help explain to you that the particular hapu we're talking about is not any other of the 9 forms of hapu that there are, except for the hapu iwi, see, or the 9th one, or the most extensive one. Okay, aroha mai there. I just needed to dive off to the toilet there for a couple of moments. And plus, my computer was being taken over by other notifications anyway, so I thought, I better sneak off to the toilet. But e tatauma, yeah, highly important, those componentries, because without them, without the uretārewa, without the kahakanui, and without the uretārewa joined with the kahakanui, you have no hapu. Hence, our vision statement, mā uretārewa, ka whai kaha ai te hapu. Mā uretārewa, ka whai kaha ai te hapu. And that's true. That's true. That because it's the uretārewa of the hapu that makes the kahakanui line of hapu, that gives you the hapu birth line. Just the kahakanui on its own only gives you uri whānauri line of birth line. That's a uri whānauri birth line. Okay, that's all that gives you. If you have no uretārewa. Okay, so ngā puhu, uri whānauri. Te mea tika ia tatauna I roto ngā puhi. Okay? That's what you fellas are. He uri whānauri. Tūhoe, uri whānauri ke noiho a tūhoe. Okay? Kua kore, he ure tāre. Kua kore ke. Kore ke katoa. I ngā tau nei, pita atu I tahimano taururaim, 5 te kai. Kore noiho. Kore kau noiho. Okay? And that's the thing. When you're relying on kawaora and all those sorts of things through pūtaiao, I te taha I te wairua, e rā mea katoa, it's not so easy to formulate e toru ngā ariki. Te tahi I te korohua o rātau, tokotoru, tanatama, a te matua ki ai a te mea tuatoru, o te mō ko tamaroa. How do we know that? How can we prove things like that? That things like that are actually true about these tribes? Well, when you look at tūhoe, when you discuss tūhoe e tatauma, and you look at their lineage of ancestry, tūhoe is a 5th line. See? He 5th line. He 5th born ke. E hara ke I te mō ko tamaroa. Okay, tūhoe is as a fifth one, ngā puhi, who is tūhoe teina, ko te mea fitu, I think, fitu. I think, not waru, I think waru is muriwai, I think fitu, yeah. So puhi himself is the seventh line, so how could he be mō ko tamaroa? You need to be mō ko tamaroa to be in an ariki line that forms an uretārewa. You know, that's not possible. Not possible for puhi. So those people in ngā puhi today saying that they're iwi just because the Crown says, and the Crown demands it and orders it with their dictatorship that they've got going on there amongst themselves. Yeah, that still doesn't formulate an iwi, sorry. Okay, let's get it right here in the mutu, and let's get it right now. Because if we keep this going for years and years on end, you're going to end up with a big scrap in the mutu. That's what you're going to end up with. I don't think you really want to take it there. I don't think you really do. Because you know the seniors will stand up. You know we'll stand up. Okay? And you know it. Okay? And there's got to be a lot of worried minds out there amongst juniors. And a lot also worried that they're going to be looking at a very regretful time afterwards if they do take it there. Okay, so they have to be very, very careful. These juniors are taking some big chances, turning their backs on their seniors like that. Not unless you've got real good reason to. I mean, if we were seniors that always broke the law, were more corrupt than them, and always trampled them, and always abused them, then maybe, yeah, okay, give those seniors up. Even if they tried to do it in a way that was terribly abusive, but then had a way of being able to deny that and say that they were pretending later on. Too late. Too late to say that they were pretending later on. They should have said that before they started it and then actually pretended, because if they didn't pretend, they're goners. They're goners, those tuakana. Okay? Alright, but you don't have that. We're all very formidable tuakana at the top. From Moai down to Moriori, very formidable, very sharp, very intelligent, very smart, very powerful. Okay? Okay, we're not going to give in to this sort of scaremongering and powermongering that begins with the Crown. If you want to ride on that horse, you go for your life, but you take what's coming with it. Okay? And by rights, you should get out of here once we kick the Crown out of here too. But if you take the offer to go under, then go under then. That'll suit us. That'll suit us really, really well. Okay, and then taking it a step further, our mission statement for 2025 to 2028 is uri ki uri, kaha ki kaha, ure tārewa ki ure tārewa. And that part of things, bringing in all of the components that you need to bring together in order to formulate the hapu, and therefore to formulate the hapu iwi whānauri, and therefore to formulate the hapu iwi in the end. Koina nā te mā te ia, e kōrero nei. Okay? So our vision statement more or less encompasses that whole kawatapu within the formulation of Hapu iwi. So from the top down. And the uri ki uri, kaha ki kaha, uretārewa ki uretārewa, shows you the reverse from the bottom up. Okay, which also helps to secure the whole of the Moteo, or the way of the whole protocol, the whole of the system, the whole of the structure and the form by which Hapu iwi actually come about. Not by just having a few people and shoving them in there and saying they're all from this sort of land and they all come under this tribe and that's it. No, that's today's standards. And today's standards, we've got to do away with that sort of crap, eh? I'm sick of our tribes today just making do with this ad hoc sort of way of formulating this and formulating that. Our tupuna had standards. They had huge standards. Okay, and I'm sick and tired of seeing a lot of our groups, especially junior, getting tied in with the corruption of the day, especially this corruption brought out by the regimes of the Crown, / Crown, quote unquote. Okay, because that sort of stuff is not good. You know why? Because our tupuna weren't like that either. They had real standards. The law was everything. Law and order was everything. And it still is today for those of us who are onto it. Tahumakakanuimatua, Hapu iwi, will always stick rigidly to doing everything by law. Law and order is where it counts. Because if you haven't got that, you've got no integrity in the basis of what you do. Straight away, you blow away your whole sense of what perpetual foundations is all about. Perpetual foundations is built on tika. Tikanga tika me te kawa. Okay? You can't build that on here. Harahara. Whānako. Rūkahu. Kōwani. You know, you can't establish integrity on anything like that. Because it doesn't work. Corruption doesn't work. And I'm sick and tired of our people going that way and listening to the Crown and its regime. And its dictatorship. Let's not forget it's not a democracy at Tatama. This is not a democracy we have in this country. Okay, so we're going to end up, just to move on from there, we're going to end up with a bit of a mix. Westminster's going to be there for those people, especially probably a lot of Pākehā will stay with Westminster. Why? Because they've always got special rights under Westminster. They've had that for years. The last 2 centuries, Pākehā have had everything. They're the ones with special rights. They just don't see that clearly. See? See? Why? Because the tiriti has always been taken by the Crown to have everyone believe that the Crown was given sovereignty, and they weren't. They stole it. They stole 100% from our tupuna. And because they had it written there, and they had all these signatures there, they could say to the Queen, Your Majesty, the sovereignty as it was given. What does she do? She dumbly goes and tells the rest of humanity. You know, and it almost looks like she was part of that. It almost looks like she was part of that. Why aren't these people supporting the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi? Talking about that. Now, yeah, there are other tribes in the country, e tatauma, that fall into the category of, this is not just to pick on Ngāpuhi Day or pick on Tūhoe Day. There's Kahungunu, there's Langitane are not a Hapu iwi either. They're just Uretare wa Hapu, stage 1. That's all they are. They're part of the kahu. They also have a link through whātonga of Te Tini o Toi, obviously of Moriori. Okay? But their senior line is Tahu. Okay? And they're kahu, so they're Tahu. Yeah, they're Tahu, in other words. Rangitane. There's also Tahu Pōtiki. That's the southern Tahu, who have gone on for years and years. Just because the Crown says so, that they're an iwi, they're really of the belief that they're an iwi. Just because they've got some people and they've thrown them in there all over what they consider Tahu Pōtiki land, kai te he tēnā kōrero. Okay? We're the iwi. We're the main iwi of the south. As much as our Moai Hapu people are there as well in the Dunedin area, that's the only area that they're in. The majority of the south is Tahumakakanuimatua. Okay, we got all the proof of that. Okay, first of all, my question to Tahu Pōtiki down there, once we get down there, because we're not even worried about the South Island, we're not even stressing, we're not, that's why we haven't been down there yet. Okay? Because we know exactly what we're going to do when we get there. Okay, you know why? Because there's no way Tahu Pōtiki can argue with us. Why? Because we know they got no proof. Where's your hapu iwi? Kai whea te ure tā rewa. Me te kaha kanoi. Kai whea huki. Te mō ko tamarua. Te mea tahi. Kai whea te mea rua. That's what we're going to be talking with them. And if they can't show us, they're going to say, move over. E tāma. Move over and remain. Our ninth ureta, our ninth, part of our ninth descents, of tribal descents in our hapu iwi. That's the Tahu Pōtiki uri whānauri. I think that's where they are, 8th or 9th. Because Tahu Pōtiki actually come from us too. Okay? They just haven't realised that yet. And they're an uri whānauri. And they are junior in the south, very, very junior. In fact, one of the most junior of the South Island. So again, we have another tribe there, a junior tribe, in the same sort of fix as all these other junior tribes, trying to make their way in life with a system that, at the outset, that system, this regime of dictatorship of the Crown, why don't we hear these people who are supporting the Treaty Principles Bill, why don't we hear them talking about the Crown and all of its corruption and its dictatorship, why don't we hear that? Because that's really what the problem is here. And we know Seymour's just a bum boy of the Crown. This is why he enjoys causing the trouble that he's causing. Real troublemaker to me, Seymour. He's just a troublemaker. He's possibly stirred up by other troublemakers. Like the Atlas group, I think Debbie talks about, Debbie Ngā Rewa Peka. Also his constituency, no doubt he's got some racial constituency in there. So they've all joined forces to rack him up, give him some guts to go out there and bring us this principles bill, to racially present, and the debate he brings is that's not a debate. That's not even a debate. We could clean that up in 5 minutes. That's not a debate. Don't tell Mr. Seymour, but he needs to find something worthy of debate, because there's no question to us as to what the Tiriti says. There's no question to us as to what the principles are, where they lay in terms of the law. And there's no question to us that there's never been any equal rights of Māori or Indigenous in the country since 1840. We've had to fight for it. And we still ain't got it. We still haven't got equal rights here. And we definitely don't have special rights. Okay? We definitely don't have special rights. And we never have. We were promised protections of our pre-existing rights and never got it. We were promised the world and we got nothing. Nothing but having to, being put in a situation where we had to fight over the scraps. And that's all we've been doing the last 2 centuries. You think we're going to stay there? No. Kahore, kahore, kahore. E kore, e tātou mai. We're not going to be staying there. Okay? I don't know whether the Crown understands this, but the Crown needs to get off its dreamboat, get off its dream horse, get off its imaginary pedestal that it puts itself on, and start realising that it's home James. Home James for the Crown, / Crown, quote unquote. Okay, because your home is not here. You don't have any mana here. You don't even have any real land here. Or the land you have is not yours. Okay? We shall take that and handle that and manage that just as well, if not better, than we did prior to 1840. We don't need you to do that, Mr. Crown. You're out of here. You're off home, mate. Back to New South Wales, where I hope they beat you to a pulp. We've got a lot of promising Aussies over there waiting for you to beat you to a pulp. And, I don't know really any other way to put it. Let me just be straight up and honest. Yeah. That's really what I hope happens when you get home back to New South Wales. Or is it England that you really come from? Or if it is, then you can't bypass New South Wales because that's where you were established, right? Right? So that's got to be partly a home for you. So at least go there and give them the satisfaction there of beating you to a pulp. And then we get this Māori Affairs Minister. What a clown. What a clown. This Māori Affairs Minister, this Tama Pōtaka, such a weakling. He's getting stood over by tohunga pō of Tūhoe and Awa all the time. You know what? He panders to everything they want. He's like crawling around like a little puppy dog, pandering to everything that they want. He does the same with the crown. You know, the crown must go, do this, do that, kia pēne, kia pēna. And you know what? He goes along and does it like a little puppy dog. You know what? As far as we're concerned, Tahumakakanuimatua, Hapu, iwi, not a great start, to 2025, not a great start. But a good start to our kōrero, I mean, because we've got settlements we're going to conclude, all right? We're going to conclude those settlements. Because we don't mind settling, we never have. It's all the other garbage that comes with it we don't like. What a load of garbage. And we just hope they're in it for the long haul, because that's what they're going to get from us. Okay? Let's see how far this dictatorship goes too. So I don't think it's got too long to live in this country. We want it out of here like yesterday. Okay? Okay, and as we know about 10 minutes left there, Tātou we've got up to this Minister of Māori Affairs. What a clown, eh? He absolutely, all the stuff I've just spoken out against, he's actually going around the mutu agreeing with it all. You know, brown nose, brown nose. Tau reka reka, mōkai. Mōkai of the crown, mōkai of tūhoe tohunga pō. You know, all that sort of thing. That's what he's going around doing. What a clown. Get him out of there. Don't tell Luxon. But I'd actually start enjoying some of the possibilities of what could come out of national for Indigenous and Māori of this country, for the super tribal, for the nations and states of this country, of our Indigenous, if that idiot was out of there now. Because he's just an idiot. Typical of lawyers, eh? He's a lawyer, you know? And I've come across so many lawyers, you know, very, very, very corrupted. You know what? This fella goes into politics. You think he might change? No. He's even more corrupt now than he was before as a lawyer. And a lot of lawyers have said that. E tatauma. I'm not just quoting that because that's what I think. Those are the views of many a lawyer. It's a corrupt area to work in, the law. It actually is one of the reasons I never remained in there. So I didn't like that. And I ended up in one of the most lawful areas of society in teaching. Teaching, media, te mea. Then ended up in management. And then next minute, Hapu iwi development. And this is really the place I belong. Okay? But we've got more challenges than this to come. We've got lots and lots more to come. So, being made for this space, being made for this industry isn't everything. You've still got to go through all the trials, the tribulations, the corruption. You've got to put up with all the crap from idiots like this minister. Mr. Pōtaka, what an idiot. Fancy changing a tribunal that doesn't need changing. And then putting in some of his people that he panders to and he he panders to them like a little puppy dog. What an idiot. Kupapa. That's what you call that in our culture, kupapa. And that's what you call that in Tahumakakanuimatua. Someone who is he huri tuara ke, te ahua o te tangata. Someone who turns their back on their own, or on the other indigenous tribes, especially seniorities. None of the seniorities have had anything from this minister, right from the word go. What a useless prick. Get him out of there. Mr. Luxon, get him out of there. And put a real minister in there. Someone who can really take care of affairs for the indigenous and the super tribal and the nations and states of this country right across the board. Not just focus on Tūhoe or Awa or any other idiot he's focusing on. Or the Crown, who's the biggest idiot of them all. Okay, and then you got Ngāpuhi, still trying to make out their Hapu iwi. What a piece of crap. They called it as a whole heap of crap. They tell Ngāpuhi, but the day they stop dreaming, the day they stop blowing, would be a far better day than what they got going on up there going into settlement. If they think that's the best thing that they could ever have, they're wrong about that. They're going to regret that. If they take it to where we think they might be taking it. Because we don't trust any of them. All of those tribes that have been involved within the corrupt regimes of the Crown, we think they're just as bad as the Crown. And that's been our experience in the space. They have been just as bad as the Crown. Yeah. Just as with treaty talks, some more of these crappy Taina. They should have just called it Taina talks, not treaty talks, because I haven't heard anything about the treaty yet. Just Taina talks. A whole lot of rubbish. A whole lot of garbage. Basa. Okay, there were some that went in there, took their truth in there and got out. But most of them have gone in there and talked a whole lot of garbage. Typical of Taina talks. Perhaps that's what they should have called it. Taina talks and not treaty talks. Taina talks is more suitable because it's more suitable to the rukahu and the kihau types of kōrero that you keep hearing out of there. Okay, and that's us for today. I'm going to wrap it up here. E tatai mā. Tō matai atua matua I te matapuo. Taputia tonu hia o tō ungahu. Tō hou hō ano. Kia tai ake ai. Ia ko tāu ano kia mea atuai. Ia te whenua tau. Ia tō te matapuo. Mea ia mātau ki te aonei. I o a te ia harei. Ko muru ake ia mātau. O mātau I oa. Me mātau hoki ia mātau. Mātau e I o ahia. Ka hore hoki mātau kia kau o. Kia whakawaia. E rangi, whakaora ia mātau. Ia te kino mea. No ho nā ia hoki te ho ano. Me te manatapu. Me ko te tai ea. Ke tonu atu. Mene, ka piti hono ka tātai hono. Ko rātou mātonu anu tērā rātou kua riro atu. Haere, koutou haere. Ka whakauti atu koutou ki te wāhi whakatau i rati atu ki a koutou. Ka piti ona ka tātai hono tātou mātonu anu tēnei tātou mātou mā ko te kānuhi ora ki a tātou mātou mā. Kai te mihi atu. Kai te mihi atu a hakoa rā te āhua ki ngā kōrero te taumaha. He nunui ke tonu e nei kōrero, me te take kōrero e kōrero hia kene. E nei kōrero kua takoto haere nei. He kōrero kia tino rāngona ai e tātou te tika o te kōrero, me te pono o te kōrero. Kua tino māuiwi haere nei mātou ki te teka e haere nei. Te teka e rerere haere nei, e whiu haere nei te motu. Ka hore nei i te āta whakaro atu i te āhua. Te mea nei kōrero ana i nei kōrero. I o rātau na tūpuna mātua. Te āhua ki a rātau. Kua ware ke nei a rātau. Ai te pai? Kua ware ke nei a rātau. Ahoi anō. Ai te mihi atu tonu, mihi a ke atu. Mihi a ke atu. Mihi a ke atu tēnā ratatau mauri ora. Kahuri